that's been really exciting for me to see. Because we all know it's not going to happen overnight, but once again, one of the hardest things that you have to get going initially is the buy-in. Once they buy in and they understand and they learn how we want to do it culturally, we'll be okay.
We will go next to Dan Rubin with BCEagles.com.
Hey, Tim. Thanks again for jumping on with us. You kind of have a unique story with how you've been through college and then went to the NFL and came out of Colgate. So for you, just how have all those different stops formulated your change? How have they changed or adapted? How have you adapted to those different stops, and what have you learned and adapted about coaching defense at each spot?
It's a good question. I feel very blessed that I've been able to be at so many different places because it's shaped and molded me in different ways. It's forced me to ask questions of myself and ask questions of what I think is good and what I think is not for me. A lot of times, from my understanding, some of the other guys I know, when you're only within like a particular system or way of doing things, it's much more difficult to adapt and change. And for me, I think that comes a little bit more easily because of my experiences in those different places. So at the end of the day, I think obviously I'm still a young guy, but moving forward, it's been a great mixture, a great I've been able to add small things here and there to what my overall baseline is, and just keep moving forward with that. It's in my mind, I think anybody that wants to do a good job at the position that I'm in, it keeps me, I don't know, for lack of a better word, avant-garde as far as with ideas and techniques. It's much easier in my mind. It's much easier for me to try things and be maybe a little bit more aggressive than I normally would have been if I've only been around one system.
And on top of that, have you found yourself adjusting? If you look back and said, "Well, I did that worked, and now it doesn't work," or do you look at it and say, "All right, that didn't work, now it might work"? Like, how do you apply that when you're looking at a crop of guys in front of you?
Absolutely. That's definitely been. That's why I was very aggressive as far as wanting to be a part of the situation here, because I know how Jeff is. Jeff is not afraid of putting himself out there and trying new things, or telling the guys to be aggressive and try new things, especially in practice. I think a lot of great things come through a lot of failures first. Obviously, you don't want those to be on Saturdays. So, that's the philosophy that we have. And I think it'll carry us a long way. I really do. I'm sorry, what was the other part of your question?
Just how do you adapt it when you have the guys in front of you and you adapt that of what maybe worked versus didn't?
I feel like that's one of my other strengths is I've been able to adapt teaching styles based off of what type of players were around. You're talking about I've been FCS, SEC, Big East, whatever. That calls for different types of teaching and different techniques. So I think that's really helped me enhance my skills as a teacher, number one, and then number two, knowing what type of schemes are more effective, based off of the player that you have. I think one of the bottom lines that I feel very strongly about is that you have to tailor fit what you do based off of your personnel, whether it's National Football League or college or small, college, who you have in that building.
Thank you.
We will
No
go
problem.
next to Mike Petraglia.
Thanks, Jason. Welcome to Boston, Tem. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Wanted to ask you about last year in the challenge with the Bengals. You only won 2 games, but it looked like certainly the team was coming together and obviously has a lot to look forward to going forward with a number 1 pick at quarterback. What that experience taught you about coaching football, and what is the biggest difference between coaching Division I athletes as opposed to NFL athletes?
So the experience in Cincinnati was, for me, obviously, other than the record, it was very positive. I was around really good coach. Zach Taylor is, first and foremost, he's a heck of a person. He's one of the best people I've been around in football as a person, and his mental fortitude and toughness to withstand what we had to last year was very impressive to me. God willing, he's able to see his plan and vision through over there. I think a lot of good things are coming. So it was good to be around guys like him there. I think every experience that I have, whether it be pro or college, there's always, learning experiences, whether we're winning or not. But unfortunately, we didn't win as much. But I would like to say personally, I learned more from the failures than not, like most people. What I experienced last year will carry me a long way in the future for sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
We will go next to Rich Thompson.
Hi, Coach. Another question. I know linebacker is kind of your forte. I was just wondering if you had any conversations with Max Richardson and John Lamott, and what you think of those 2 young men.
Absolutely have had conversations with those young men. I think that's one of the strengths of our program is we're very good at having open dialogue. I think the guys always know where they stand. They always know what they have to work on, know what their strengths are right now. They know what their weaknesses are right now. And, we make the guys feel comfortable enough that if you don't know where you stand, make sure you ask. But a lot of our teaching styles are so that the guys are very clear. This is what I'm not good at. This is what I am good at. This, if I want to reach A, this is what I have to do to reach goal A. And I've had those conversations with those 2 guys. Their position coach, Sean Duggan, knows what it takes to be successful at this place. So far, I think they both had a taste of success here. So we're just here to enhance that. And I'm excited about working with those guys. So far, so good. I'm really impressed, even though it was 5 practices, but the thing that really jumps out is the leadership from those guys. I think when you have that and, obviously they have experience playing, we have some tools that we can really build off of.
Thanks.
We'll go next to Dan Roach.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good, thanks. I have 3 questions for you. The first one's a simple I'm a dumb TV sportscaster question. So how do you want your last name pronounced?
It's Lukabu.
Perfect, thank you. And then the second one is just how much are you looking forward to forming not a relationship, but a philosophy maybe with Jeff as the defensive coordinator, and what you're able to bring, what you're both able to bring to Boston College?
Yeah, it's once again, like I really think it's one of the most fun parts of the job for me. Having known Jeff for many years, I've always felt like we've always been eye to eye when it comes to football and the way that we think that it should be played. And not develop guys, we've always been eye to eye. He's done a good job of bringing me along as far as, you know, on what his expertise areas are. I've always been an admirer of how he did things in the back end and in the secondary room. As a matter of fact, he brought me on to do that with him in with the 49ers. So, you know, it's always been a mutual respect as far as that goes. So that's why I'm really excited to be able on it to go, and so far so good. You know, the other thing that really makes me excited about working with him is the constant communication and banter that we have back and forth about, you know, ideas and tinkering things here and there. We're not just we're not the type to just, you know, rest on our laurels. You know, regardless what we did well in the NFL or at other college places, the way that we think is we always want to, you know, stay ahead of the curve, and be up to date and give our guys a chance to succeed.
And lastly, I'm not sure how much you cross paths with him. I know you were at Rutgers as a player in the player development role as well. But Devin and Jason McCourty were just named the Muhammad Ali Sports Humanitarian Award finalists for their impact on the community. Did you know them well, and have you gotten to know them over the course of the years?
Oh my gosh, I know those guys inside out. You know, anytime you bring up those two names, it just brings a tremendous sense of pride for me. Just to know them as, you know, as teenagers and the men they've grown to become is, to me, it's not a surprise, to be honest. They're not very much different than what they were when they were teenagers or playing at Rutgers. They're a direct reflection of their mother, who did an unbelievable job, and, you know, they're just two guys that I knew that would have the discipline to, number one, do well on the field, number two, just keep doing what they did as people. So I'm not surprised at all, and I'm very proud of those guys.
Thank you.
We will go next to Mike Petraglia.
Thanks again, Jason. Tem, obviously, as a defensive coordinator, you want to be comfortable that you're putting your guys in comfortable, good positions to make the best play possible on defense. I just want to know, how well do you know the defense and the personnel that you have? I know you've mentioned a couple of the guys already, but how well do you know the players? How much are you working to get familiar to the point where you're very confident calling whatever defensive call it is?
Yeah, it's one of those things that you can't really say 100% that you're totally confident or know what's going to happen when you worked with the guys in a game setting. I don't believe that would be, you know, an accurate description, but we're definitely work to get there, and there's no replacement for actual game experience with a set of guys. You know, all the other teams are really in the same place that we are when it comes to that, because every year is its own individual year. You know, so you know, some people see it as a disadvantage for us, but I think we're starting right where everybody else is too. You know, whoever was last year, if they lose 10 guys here, so you know, we're working as hard as we can to, you know, to make up for that, you know, with the circumstances that are happening right now.
Thank you. We'll go next to Dan Rubin.
But having coached at Rutgers and been up in the Big East and then moving around also nationally, how different is football in the Northeast compared to some of the other places that you've been, just culturally, and not only that, but being able to recruit up here and see the types of players that come out of the Northeast in particular?
Sure, I think you hit it right on the head right there. The main word that comes to my mind is the culture. You know, so you compare the Northeast to maybe the Deep South. In the Deep South, that's, you know, that's like church down there. You know, literally the whole town closes up. Everything's centered on on the program. For example, up here you have the New England Patriots, you have the Celtics, etc. When I was in Mississippi, we were the show. We were the pro team. That's one of the main differences that I saw that was actually, very exciting and enticing. I could see why it's very intoxicating for somebody that grows up in a culture like that. One of the other differences that I saw was, compared to maybe some other areas in the country, is the amount of really big athletic guys down there. They're more abundant. Talking about along the offensive line and defensive line, which at the end of the day, in my opinion, that makes really the biggest difference personnel wise when you're saying one team is better than another team. I think there's just as many skilled players up here in the Northeast, but the number of big athletic D-line, O-line is not as abundant. But the other thing that I did learn, a kid that is passionate and loves football down in the South or in Florida, and the kid that loves football and is passionate about it in the Northeast, there's no difference. At the end of the day, if you bring the passion, you bring that love, you bring that hunger, and a little bit of the right DNA, you'll end up being okay.
Great. I think that is going to wrap up everything for today. Tem, thank you so much for joining us, and for all the media members that joined on the call as well. We thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Be safe.
You
Thanks,
too.
guys.
You too.
Stay safe.
Thanks, Jason.